Hello, Chicago! Welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It's all starting to come together, isn't it? Ben Johnson got introduced last week, and wow, that was impressive. We will get into that. We will talk about some of the things he said in his presser, as well as some of the things that he had to say with some of his media rounds. We'll discuss how important any of it is. We'll get into that, and the staff that he is starting to put into place. Some names getting added in, some that were expected, some that are not. We will get into that. Over in baseball, the Cubs made a move over the weekend, a big one, getting some much-needed bullpen help. We will discuss that, dissect that move, as well as the White Sox having their convention over the weekend. We'll get into that a little bit. The Blackhawks also made a trade this weekend, though it was decidedly not nearly as exciting as what the Cubs did. Being the third team in a three-team deal can be kind of strange sometimes, and that definitely was one of the more unique ones for the Blackhawks. We'll talk about that. And then finally, I'm sure it went under everybody's radar because it's D3 basketball, but there was a tournament that is somewhat near and dear to me that went on over the weekend, and it's going to be the last time that this tournament is ever going to happen. So we'll discuss that a little bit. All that and more coming up right now. And hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Glad that you could be here with us tonight. We've got a lot to get through on the show tonight. We're going to be talking Bears, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks. We'll be checking in on the Bulls as they are in action over at United Center tonight against Denver. And then we've even got a little bit of college sports that we'll be talking about tonight. Lots to get through on the show and only an hour or so in which to do it. So without any further ado, we are going to hear a word real quickly from our sponsors, and then we will dive right on into the show. This is Chi-Town Weekly on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick here with you. Lots to get through on the show tonight. Thank you once again, though, to our sponsors, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, Vital Apparel, Sportswear, and, of course, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Thank you to each and every one of those. You heard in the open there, we're going to be talking a lot of different sports things around the sports landscape in Chicago tonight. So we'll dive right into it. First of all, ways that you can follow along. This show is available for you on social media. On Twitter, we are available at IESRC. I am also available there at Adam_Karnick, as well as you can find me on Blue Sky at Adam K87. And I would be remiss while we were talking about sponsors, we should also mention, as long as you're getting Vital Apparel for your workout regimen, you also need to supplement yourself. Raw Nutrition Supplements at getrawnutrition.com. You can use the promo code IESR for 10% off of your order there as well. While we're talking about sponsors, thank you to them as well. And if you are watching the show live tonight across Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, drop us a comment, drop us a line. We'll bring it up on air. Wes Trueblood is here. Good evening to you, sir. I hope you're doing well too. It's been a busy start to the new year, but we're hanging in there. Meanwhile, always Arizona, have a good show. Thank you very much. And Taryn Rodriguez saying good evening as well. So be sure to drop us a line, hop on in the chat room, or if you're listening live later on in the week as a podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts, this show is broadcast as well. Want to say welcome and thank you to you guys as well for making this part of your regular sports week. Going to start things off with Bears tonight. Ben Johnson, we celebrated the hiring last week as Ben Johnson unexpectedly became available a little sooner than I think any of us expected when the Lions got knocked out in the divisional round by the Washington Commanders. We celebrated the hire last week, but we hadn't heard anything from him yet, nothing official. In fact, while we were doing the show last week, there was still a small portion of the fan base that was somewhat in denial that he had been hired. As I won't believe it till we see it from the team itself. Well, then Tuesday came and we saw the official videos and we saw the signing and all these things. But then it was Wednesday last week when we finally got to hear Ben Johnson talk at the podium. Wow. That's all I can say about that. That was impressive. You talk about, I say a young man because for an NFL head coach he's my age. So am I young? I don't know. Sure, we'll run with it. We'll go with it. But for an NFL head coach for someone that doesn't have any NFL head coaching experience or head coaching experience at any level for that matter, he was very poised. He was very detailed. He was obviously very prepared for the questions he was asked. He also made it very apparent that this is exactly where he wanted to be. That this was the ideal spot for himself. And it was just so refreshing to hear just honest, genuine thoughts coming from the head coach of the Bears. It wasn't coach speak. It wasn't rah, rah, rah. It wasn't, you didn't have the hits principle in any of that. There were elements of all that and things he said, when he turned over and looked at Caleb and Cole Kmet and Roma Dunze and addressed all the players and told them, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and telling them that the standard had been raised at Hallis Hall. Yeah, that's very coachy. All coaches are going to do some version of that at their press conference. But at the same time, he didn't resort to empty platitudes. It felt like everything was coming from a very genuine, very real place with him. It was very impressive. And he didn't shy away from his feelings about the way the roster was put together. He said that as he had been preparing to play against the Bears this past season, that he said there were definite players that was, how are we going to account for him? How do we handle him? There's things with this guy that I'm looking forward to doing things with. And then, of course, the big talking point, of course, is, after the Lions had so much offensive success during his tenure, I think I brought this up last week, his 3 seasons as offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions were 3 of the 4 highest scoring seasons that the Detroit Lions have ever had in their history. So obviously those are the expectations for what Ben Johnson is going to bring to the table in Chicago. And he said it starts with Caleb. And I liked hearing how he said the goal is to take the offense and really strip it down to the screws and work with Caleb on what kind of plays do you like? What formations do you like? Where do you feel most comfortable? And using that as a starting spot to build and take the offense from there. Very impressive things that were coming out of the press conference. And then he made the rounds with various media outlets. He had his interviews with the Breakfast Ball show on FS1 and Danny Parkins, who's a diehard Chicagoan, asking him about the purely hypothetical of how he would have handled the timeout situation at the end of the Thanksgiving Day game that ultimately was the straw that broke Eberflus's back. And they had fun where Johnson, before the question was even finished, signaling a timeout, but then saying, no, we're not going to get into that. He gave you the meatball moment of pointing out how he's enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur, twice a year the last couple of years. You had little bits of everything for everybody there in that press conference, all while you still felt like you were getting to know him as a person in a way that was unique and different compared to how other coaches have sounded and been at the podium. So often we're so used to hearing coaches come up to the microphone and hi everybody. I'm real excited to be here. Yeah. I'm here to be the coach, and we're gonna go get ready to win some ball games. So yeah, everybody go get ready to win ball games. This is gonna be really fun, and yeah, this is gonna be a great time. Yeah. I'm just so excited to be here, and thank you to George and to Ryan and to all the great history here. And this is amazing and fantastic. And thank you all for being here. We'll see you later. Bye. We're so used to that kind of press conference from a Bears coach where it's you swear they've never talked in front of a crowd ever before in their lives. And it's just, they want to get out from under it as quickly as possible. Ben Johnson was comfortable and collected, and he obviously had prepared for this. It's so refreshing to see that. You don't normally get that from a Bears head coach. So to have that and see that was so great and fantastic to see. But you the tidbits that you got, and then when he goes on with Mike Florio and is giving you actual information on Pro Football Talk, he clearly and easily won the press conference. No doubt about it. But how much does that actually matter? That's really the question, of course, is how much does winning the press conference matter? I don't know, but I can tell you it sure helps your credibility right from Jump Street when you can come out and have a press conference like that, as opposed to what we had 4 years ago when Eberflus and Poles were introduced in the same press conference, and you were kind of left wondering with, oh boy, what is this going to be? I mean, I can distinctly remember the show that we had 3 years ago, 3 years ago when Eberflus was announced. And I had to joke about the HITS principle because it was, oh my gosh, they got an acronym guy. And I brought up and asked, does that actually resonate with players or not? You got something very genuine here with Ben Johnson. I don't know. There's no way to know how much that will matter in the long run, but it certainly helps with getting everything off on the right foot. And then he's been very busy to this point getting the coaching staff in place. A bunch of hires here over the last several days, getting the Bears' new coaching staff put together. Most notably, Dennis Allen, as originally rumored and suggested. Dennis Allen is going to be the defensive coordinator. Love that hire, coming from New Orleans and having somebody with Dennis Allen's experience in the room there with Ben Johnson. It reminds me of when Sean McVay first took over with the Rams. And honestly, Matt Nagy 6 years ago when he first came in with the Bears, when you have these really, really, really young, relatively wet behind the ears, offensive-minded head coaches, the first thing they did was as their top assistant, the defensive coordinator, they had it be an older, grizzled veteran coach. And in the case of Sean McVay, Wade Phillips actually had some head coaching chops under his belt into that. Obviously, he wasn't somebody that was necessarily going to be brought up in NFL head coaching searches as much anymore. But he'd been there and done that and had gone through some of the pitfalls and snares that Ben Johnson is sure to encounter. So he can provide, if nothing else, great counsel for Ben Johnson as he's taking over and embarking on his first head coaching gig. Also, then just a terrific defense. You know, say what you will about Dennis Allen as a head coach, he obviously struggled there, as evidenced by the fact that he got fired middle of the year last year by the Saints. But his defenses were always excellent, always in the top 10 in the NFL, and he's been doing it for a long time in New Orleans, worked under Sean Payton before eventually taking over for him. So I love that hire. And I also think the Bears have the secondary chops to run his system. He likes to play press man, likes to play a lot of man-to-man coverage. I think Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson, yes, I do think Tyreek Stevenson will still be around, and Jalen Jones and the other pieces of the Bears secondary can fit into that. Kyler Gordon might be somebody that needs a little bit of work, but one of the things that I heard today as I was prepping for the show was Dennis Allen likes to use a lot of big nickel, where he'll actually, instead of using a third corner, he'll put a third safety out on the field. So that could be an interesting wrinkle that we see there, where you have a third safety out there on the field instead of a fifth corner out there, which that could be something new for the Bears. JT Barrett as the quarterback's coach. You're talking about a former player to come in. We always talk about how, are there any coaches on the team? Well, JT Barrett is a guy that was a player not that long ago. So he can kind of be that let a coach be the coach for Caleb Williams, somebody who has been there and done that as a quarterback. Obviously not to the degree that we all hope that Caleb obtains, but still a young enough face that Caleb can look up to him and still see somebody that played not that long ago. Al Harris to come in as the defensive backs coach coming from Dallas. I like that hire. I like that move for the Bears. And then, also coming over from Detroit. One of the I lost the name and my train of thought stopped. There we go. Antoine Randall L. going to be the wide receivers coach, but also going to be the assistant head coach. I genuinely don't remember the last time the Bears had an assistant head coach, much like Ian Cunningham was originally brought in by Ryan Holes for the assistant general manager, a position the Bears had never had before. You've got an assistant head coach now in Antoine Randall L. I love that hire. Randall L. is somebody, first of all, he's from Chicago, and he's, again, got that player gravitas, somebody that has been in a lot of the moments that these players are all hoping to make it into. And he's not afraid to coach up somebody hard, to be on the sidelines and really grilling somebody. There plenty of video was being released of him getting in Jameson Williams' face a little bit and, hey, settling him down and getting him refocused and reacclimated in. Richard Hightower remains from the old staff. So you are keeping somebody from the old guard to help remain some continuity and to help be a bridge maybe between the players and the new coaches that, hey, here's a familiar face. And Richard Hightower is a good special teams coach. And obviously, we saw lots of the creativity in the last game against Green Bay, but some good things there. And then the offensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator gets announced. And this is an interesting one. Declan Doyle. Declan Doyle, coming from Denver, he was the tight ends coach. He's the youngest offensive coordinator in the NFL. He might be the youngest offensive coordinator ever in the NFL. I mean, the dude is young. Now, one of the things Ben Johnson said in his press conference that shocked nobody is Ben Johnson is going to call the plays on game day. No surprise there. He's one of the top play callers in the NFL. And it's one of the reasons he got hired. So you're going to hold on to that responsibility. I'm not surprised at all by that. But Doyle, this will be somebody who will help shape the game plan Monday through Saturday, so that it will make Ben Johnson's life easier on Sundays to call the plays. To be, hey, coach, here are the 7 or 8 third down plays that we want to use this week. Oh, okay, I like this one. Yeah, let's swap that one out. Oh, I like that one. Instead of having to come up with all of it but from scratch. Or, hey, here are our 3 favorite running plays to do on first down. Here are 3 favorite passing plays to use on first down, et cetera, et cetera. Help formulate the game plan so that then Ben Johnson can just worry about calling the game on Sundays. I do wonder if there isn't a little bit of gamesmanship with this by hiring somebody so young that it might be a way to get around how everybody, you go to a great offense in the NFL and who's their offensive coordinator? Great, that's who we're going to talk to see about having as our next head coach. I do wonder if this isn't a way around that, because even though he doesn't have play calling responsibilities, Doyle is only 28 years old. Teams I would imagine, would be a little gun shy about hiring a 29 or 30-year-old a year or two down the road to be a head coach. So I wonder if this isn't a little bit of gamesmanship in helping to hold on to a guy a little longer than an offensive coordinator might normally stick around with his age there. So that's an interesting one. We'll see what happens there with that. But otherwise, the rest of the coaching staff, great hires. There's still obviously roles to be grabbed. You've got offensive line coach, running back coach, more of the defensive staff. That'll come into shape. I would expect a lot of that to come into place quickly, especially now that most of the head coaching vacancies are being filled across the NFL. Dallas is filled. The Jaguars now have their head coaching vacancy filled. You're seeing, obviously, the Patriots. You're seeing more of these vacancies get filled. So I wouldn't be surprised if we'll see more of the Bears staff come into place here very quickly as the well starts to run a little dry here in the next week or two. But very exciting start to the Ben Johnson era. Obviously, there's lots more to go through on that, and there's time will tell. We've got a long way to go between now and when anything starts to matter as far as results on the field, but still a very exciting start to the Ben Johnson era. we're going to take ourselves a quick break, and then we're going to talk some baseball. We talked about the Cubs last week and how they had promised that they weren't done making moves, and we wanted to hold them to it. Well, they came through. The Cubs made a move over the weekend that we need to talk about, adding in a closer into their bullpen. We need to talk about that, and we'll talk about a little bit of White Sox too. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Be right back after this.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen D, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you here. Wanted to talk Chicago Cubs next, as we talked all Bears during the first half of the show. We had talked last week about how we wanted the Cubs to not be done making moves. They had missed out on some players. They had missed out on some pieces, and we wanted them to not be done. And Tom Ricketts had said they're not done. And then, sure enough, this past weekend, the Cubs made a move, once again with the Houston Astros. That's a couple moves they've made with the Astros now this offseason. This time acquiring bullpen arm right-handed pitcher Rick Presley to come to the Cubs, ostensibly to be the new closer for the Cubs. Presley, he had a no trade agreement in his deal, but he was willing to waive that to come to the Cubs. The Astros are even holding on to some of Presley's salary. They are holding on to $5.5 million of Presley's $14 million salary. So the Cubs are actually only going to be spending $8.5 million on Presley. And all they had to send back in return was a Class A prospect. So a very bottom of the minor leagues player. I like the move for the Cubs. Now we'll kind of set up some things here. Presley, he is a right-handed pitcher. He features a four-seam fastball, and then his breaking ball is a slider curve, slurvy kind of a pitch. Similar, not necessarily in its effectiveness, but kind of in design as what Chris Sale throws, that incredibly nasty breaking thing that Chris Sale has thrown for years. That's sort of a slider, sort of a curveball. It's nowhere near as good as that, but that's the style of pitch that it is. Good evening, Ralph Calise. Tuning in a little bit. That's all right. That's all right. You're here to talk some. You're here in time to talk about some Cubs. Though I'd love to hear your thoughts too on former Steeler wide receiver Antoine Randall L. now being the Chicago Bears assistant head coach. Love to hear some of your thoughts on that, Ralph. Certainly don't want to hear you enjoying any more Paul Skeens at the Cubs at the Cubs expense. Definitely don't want to hear anything more about that. Ralph is also the host of our Pittsburgh show, the Yinzer Report. So he and I go back and forth from time to time. Always in good fun, though. Always in good fun. Presley, he's 36 years old. He has seen his swing and miss rate has gone down the last couple of years. So he is pitching a little bit more to contact, which that is something that in Wrigley I do wonder about. I do worry that, and we worried this same thing last year about the starting rotation, that it was, when you've got, guys that are pitching to contact, how well is that going to play in a park like Wrigley, where sure, okay, for April and the first 2 or 3 weeks of May, it can be very much a pitcher's park, but then you're basically talking until the end of September and then into October before it really becomes a pitcher's park again. The bulk of the season, it is typically a very hitter-friendly park. So, but if he can keep it to ground balls, if he can keep the ball down where when guys are hitting it, they're hitting it into the dirt, into the ground, and not getting any lift on it, the Cubs still have a solid enough infield that can work. That can work. Presley, certainly he's not the physical specimen that he was 2, 3, 4 years ago when he was winning, when he was being just a dominant closer for the Astros and helping them win the World Series. But he's still somebody who's got the chops and still has the I've been there mentality of it. Ralph having some fun here. Paul Skeens, yes, he's always going to be linked to the Cubbies. Yep, for that MLB debut, and what a debut it was. If there's any justice, though, this coming season when the Cubs play the Pirates, they will miss Skeens at least 3 out of the 4 times they play this year, if there's any justice. Because that was the thing this past year, was every time the Cubs would line up against the Pirates, to be up, they got to face Skeens. God darn it, how is it every time they're winding up, they're playing 3 games up, and there's Skeens right there. They don't miss him. So if there's any justice this go around, they will miss him several times when they come to town. He is fun to watch, though. Ralph also enjoying the Bears' hiring of Antoine Randall L. and reminding us that he played quarterback at college. Yeah, and that was actually something I heard a little bit talked about on the radio, that had he come out, that he was a little ahead of his time, that had he graduated maybe 15 years later, had he come out in the 20 teens instead of the early 2000s, that maybe he would have been allowed to play quarterback at the NFL level instead of transitioning over to wide receiver basically by force, that maybe he would have been able to stay at quarterback and be given a shot. We'll never know. But he does get to then go down as one of the great Super Bowl plays of all time, taking some of the great Super Bowl moments of all time with the Steelers, catching some passes and throwing some as well for the Steelers. So, yeah, that pass in Super Bowl 40, that was to Hines Ward, correct? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I believe that was to Hines Ward on that play. One of the best Super Bowl plays of all time. Just a great one there. So enjoying that one. But the Cubs make a move, and I applaud them for it. There's still more work to be done. One thing you hope that doesn't wind up out of this is that this simply just frees up the money so that Houston can go sign Alex Bregman back. You'd like that. Hopefully, there's a little bit more involved in it than that. But at the same time, Ralph, thank you. Yeah, it was indeed to Hines Ward who won the MVP in that game as well. See, I remember some things. I remember all the unimportant sports trivia stuff. The important stuff in life, nope, in one out the other. But good move for the Cubs. Good, solid move by the Cubs overall on that. The White Sox, they also had their fan convention over the weekend, so we don't want to be remiss about them. Obviously, it was a very different kind of event than what the Cubs had a week earlier. The White Sox, a lot of the focus is on the past at the fan convention. This year, the White Sox will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of winning the World Series in 2005. That was one of the most dominant postseason runs that we've seen in baseball, where they lost one game the entire way through, from the ALDS all the way through to winning the World Series. And the starting rotation, just so impressive in that we will, as we get more towards the fall, as we get into September and October, and we get closer to some of the key dates of that 20th anniversary, we'll be talking about that all throughout the show this year. We'll get to some of them over the summer, and then we'll talk about some of them in the fall as well, culminating in celebrating that World Series title over, appropriately enough, the Houston Astros, that 4-game sweep down in Houston, because of course, remember, the Astros were in the National League at that time, unlike now. But it's everything was about the past. There wasn't much enjoying the present, because oh boy, there's not a whole lot to celebrate in the present for the White Sox. I've heard it several times, and I just don't. I get where it's coming from, but I don't get where it's coming from. That the White Sox, they'll be better this year. Well, why? Well, they can't be as bad as last year. Well, why not? They haven't done anything of significance to improve upon a team that set an MLB record for losses a season ago. Why is this year going to be different? I realize that it's hard to lose 121 games 2 years in a row, but I don't see any reason why the White Sox won't at least lose 110 games this year. There was one last bit of good cheer, though, with the White Sox at their fan convention. Mark Buehrle is going to be getting a statue unveiled for him this season on July 11th. And that's going to be special. That's going to be a good time there on the South Side. One of the best pitchers in MLB, certainly one of the best in White Sox history. Another example of you don't need to necessarily just be a flamethrower in order to be successful as a starting pitcher. I don't know if Buehrle ever threw it faster than 86, 87 miles an hour, but wow, was he effective as a pitcher. Certainly one of the all-time White Sox greats, very deserving of a statue, and that'll be certainly one to celebrate, and we will do that with the show after that gets unveiled. All right, we are going to take for ourselves one more break, and then we're going to talk some Blackhawks. The Blackhawks also made a trade over the weekend. They were the third team in a 3-team deal, and I mean that in every negative sense of that phrase. I will explain that next. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
What's good, sports fans? It's your boy Aaron Yell, and if you are looking for sports takes that live a mile above the rest, look no further than Mile High Musings here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Want to talk about NBA MVPs and champions? Yeah, that's us. Perhaps a baseball team that no matter how they play, you just can't quit them? Yep, we've got that too. What about Stanley Cups, NHL award winners in the burgundy and blue? You got it. How about Buffaloes that run, pass, shoot, dunk? You bet. For all things Colorado sports, look no further than right here every Sunday at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 8 Mountain, and 7 Pacific. Because if that light is red and the kids are in bed, you are listening to Mile High Musings, where we praise the Lord and cheer for them Denver Broncos. Stay good, sports fans.
And welcome back out into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Cardick back with you for about, another, we'll probably go a little past the hour, so we'll say another 15 minutes or so. Talked a lot of Bears on the show tonight. We've also talked both the Cubs and the White Sox. I would be remiss if before we move on that I didn't check in on the Bulls real quickly, as they are home against the Denver Nuggets tonight with about 4 minutes left to go in the first half. The Bulls are trailing the Denver Nuggets 62-50. Ugh. So not good there, but we'll see. Nikola Jokic and Nikola Vucevic, of course, renewing their friendly rivalry back and forth. The Nuggets shooting 60% from the floor so far. My goodness, play some defense, guys. Get some stops here. Yuck. So not good things going over at United Center tonight against Denver. Wanted to talk some hockey a little bit, as you may know, some of you may know, regular listeners to the show know, I am one half of the hockey show we have here as well on IE Sports Radio, the Neutral Zone. Myself and my buddy Zach Puplis, we talk hockey every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central Time. We'll be talking a lot about this particular story tomorrow night, more in a broad national sense, but I want to talk very much about the local side of it here tonight, as the Blackhawks were the third team in a big 3-team trade over the weekend. The big highlights of the deal were the Colorado Avalanche set forward Mikko Rantanen over to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for forwards Jack Drury, Martin Necas, and a pair of draft picks. The Blackhawks got involved in part to basically play banker. Officially, what happened was Rantanen was officially traded to Chicago, who then forwarded him on to Carolina. That way, the Blackhawks, by NHL rules, you're allowed to retain up to half of a player's salary when you trade them. Colorado was not in a position to be able to do that. You can only do that with up to 3 players. The Avalanche couldn't do that with Rantanen's salary, so they used the Blackhawks, who they did have a slot available to do that. So the Blackhawks retained half of Rantanen's salary, little over $4 million, about $4 million and change. Stays with Chicago, and then he can go to Carolina, so that Carolina could then afford to take on the contract. The Blackhawks sent one of their prospects, the rights to one of their prospects, to Carolina, as well as Mikko Rantanen. They also sent Taylor Hall, one of their forwards, over to Carolina. Not a surprising move. Hall had been rumored to be on the move for a while, and looking like, with as bad as this of a season as the Blackhawks are having, that would make all the sense in the world to move on from Taylor Hall. What's frustrating and what's disappointing with this, in all this, the Blackhawks give up Taylor Hall. They give up the rights to one of their prospects. They hold on to half the salary of a player that never played for them. And all they get back is a third-round pick from Carolina. A third-round pick, which, by the way, is Chicago's. It was their own third-round pick. They had sent it to Carolina, I believe, as part of the David Teravainen deal. I believe that. I have to double check. but they were just, all they were getting back was their own pick. Those are kind of fun when you look at it on the draft board. It's upcoming Chicago via trade from Chicago through Carolina. Those always make me chuckle when you see those. But that's all you got? That's it? Come on, Kyle Davidson. Really? If you were to tell me, all right, they traded Taylor Hall and they got a 3rd round pick back. All right, okay. That's disappointing, but that's more kind of just disappointing in that's how badly kind of the whole Taylor Hall thing has gone for Chicago. It has not gone well. It has not gone well at all in Chicago. And so that's emblematic in that in the end, all you're getting is a 3rd round pick for him. What really sinks this to the depths, though, is they got to play banker for Colorado. They sent a prospect to Colorado, and they got nothing back from Colorado. They literally, the Blackhawks were a bank. That's all they were in this. And there's no tip, there's no future rights to a prospect, there's no draft pick, there's nothing, absolutely nothing back from the Avalanche in this deal. At the least, the Blackhawks should have gotten 2 picks, one from Carolina and one from Colorado. Instead, they got absolutely nothing out of the Colorado Avalanche in this deal. This is just, I was grading the trade the day after it happened for Neutral Zone. I put it up on Neutral Zone's Twitter feed and was talking about it. And as I was coming up with the grade, I wanted to give Kyle Davidson and the Blackhawks, I wanted to give them an F. That was honestly how I felt. I said, no, you did get something. We have seen worse trades in this city. We have seen where you're literally giving away a player for nothing. We have seen that before, so I decided I would give it better than an F. I gave it a D. And frankly, I feel like that's probably better than I should have. I probably should have pushed it even one more step down and called it a D minus. What are you doing here? And I get it. And it's, hey, the Blackhawks are clearly still rebuilding. Any acquisition of draft capital is a good acquisition of draft capital. You get your own 3rd round pick back. They've got a bunch of picks in the next couple of drafts. I think they're up to 9 picks now in the first 3 rounds in this summer's upcoming draft. Couple in the first round, couple in the second round. I think they now have 3 in the 3rd round of this draft, something like that. They have an absurd amount of picks. So I get all that. It's just, this should have been more. At the very least, you should have gotten a draft pick out of the Avalanche. So this is just a colossal failure of a trade to me on this. There's just no other way to describe it to me with the Blackhawks, that this was just a terrible, awful move by Kyle Davidson, trading Taylor Hall to the Carolina Hurricanes, and also being the go-between so that Mikko Rantanen can get over to Carolina, and all you get is a single solitary draft pick. That's just that's a terrible trade in my book. That's do not like that at all. I'll have more to say about this tomorrow night. Myself and my co-host Zach Poplis will be breaking down a lot of this trade, obviously diving into some more looks on how this will affect Carolina and Colorado, as well as Chicago, but wanted to dive in a little bit more specifically into the Chicago aspect of it here. I've got one more story, one more thing to go over for all of us here tonight before we call the show. Usually I try to stick to just 3, maybe 4 things, but usually it's just the 3 and then we call it a show. I wanted to have one more before we got out of here tonight. And this is going to be one that probably for a lot of people, they're not necessarily going to have any connection with this, but it means something to me. So a little bit of background. I went to college at Concordia University, now Chicago. When I started there, it was Concordia University River Forest, over in River Forest, Oak Park area, a little west, about 12 miles due west of downtown. The name change actually occurred while I was there. They made the transition over from being River Forest to being Concordia University Chicago while I was there. And wonderful time, had a lot of the college experiences there, friends that I still talk with and keep up with, and got to travel the world. I got to go to China because I went to Concordia, Chicago, got to tour all across the United States, all kinds of great, awesome things that I got to do as a college student. One of those things was the Concordia Invitational Tournament. Now, at the time when I was there, this was purely a basketball tournament. You would have the men's and women's programs from 4 of the Concordia college universities. Concordia is a group of universities. They are in Ann Arbor, Mequon, Wisconsin, Seward, Nebraska, Irvine in California. There's one down in Texas. There used to be one in New Jersey. That one no longer is open. But they're a network of universities all connected to each other. And 4 of them, Chicago, Ann Arbor, Mequon, and Seward, will get together every year the last weekend in January. For when I was there, it was a basketball tournament. Your men's and women's teams would come. And I was in the pep band, so I would get to go and play. And you'd have a ton of fun. We would stay on the dorms more often than not with our fellow Concordians, and oh my goodness, everybody would be having a good time. We'll leave it at that. Everybody would have a good time while we were there. It has since expanded. Besides just being a basketball tournament, it is now also the universities send their competitive cheerleading teams and their competitive dance teams to the tournament as well. So congratulations to the Concordia Chicago Cougars for the dance team winning at CIT over the weekend. Did the best of the 4. So congratulations to them. The basketball teams, they kind of struggled a little bit over the weekend. The men and women both lost both of their games. Both lost both of their games. The competitive cheerleading team finished 3rd out of the 4, but the dance team did win. So congratulations to the Concordia Chicago dance team for being the 2025 CIT Concordia Invitational Tournament champions. And then we have to bid farewell to the CIT. This was the 72nd annual Concordia Invitational Tournament, and it will be the last. Concordia Ann Arbor will be shutting its doors, I believe, at the end of this school year. So the tournament, which shut down in COVID for a couple of years, but then rebounded and There was a tournament last year and then a tournament this year. Has been going on this was the 72nd CIT tournament, but it will be the last, as Concordia Ann Arbor, which hosted the tournament this year, is shutting its doors at the end of the year. So the CIT, it will be missed for those of us that went to one of the Concordias and got to partake in it. It's something that a lot of us will remember in one way or another, whether it was the 9.5-hour bus ride just to get to Seward, Nebraska. My God, my kingdom for a tree, something, anything to shake up the drive on your way there, or going out to Ann Arbor and everything going on there, or heading up to Wisconsin and staying up till way too late playing euchre and other events. Just, it was a great fun college tournament, well put together, well done. So long to the CIT. You will be missed in the Concordia circle. That is going to do it for our show here tonight. Big shout out and thank yous, of course, to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. You go to planetjerky.net to place your order. Also, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Go to iesportsradio.com/seal the deal wax seals to place your orders there. Thank you also to Vital Apparel. Go to vitalapparel.com to place your order for all their workout gear. Use the promo code IESR checkout to get 15% off of their merchandise. And then also Raw Nutrition Supplements. As long as you're working out, getting your new threads for working out, go to Raw Nutrition. Go to getrawnutrition.com and use the promo code IESR for 10% off of your order there. Help your recovery and your workouts to get the most out of those workouts. Thank you as well to Larry B, the czar and overlord of all things IE Sports Radio. Your hard work does not go unnoticed, nor is it unappreciated all during the week. Thank you to everyone that hung out with us in the chat room tonight. Ralph Police, Karen Rodriguez, Always Arizona Sports, and Wes Trueblood. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Thank you to the 110 people that watched the show live tonight, whether it was across Twitter or YouTube or Facebook. Thank you for being here. Finally, thank you, the people listening later on and as a podcast. Thank you for being here as well. I try to make this show better each and every time that I do it. For IE Sports Radio and Chi-Town Weekly, I am Adam Karnick, wishing each and every one of you a great week. Be safe, be healthy. Next week, we'll have some thoughts on the Super Bowl and how it pertains to the Chicago Bears. We'll also see what other members of the coaching staff get rounded up, and we'll see just what else is going on in the Chicago sports landscape. Until then, we'll see you next time. Have a great week, everybody.